The top damage dealers in Watcher of Realms for the guild boss. Who will be number 1? Who will be on the bottom of the top list? Let's take our best guesses and let's find out together. What up, team? It is Rank back with a Watcher of Realms video. Exciting one, because as we all know, I love the guild boss. I do. It's like my favorite, not like, it is my favorite part of the game. So with that, I wanted to do a video covering the best of the top end heroes for the guild boss, and there's even an epic. Can you guess who? Really quickly. Guess in the comment section. I'm not going to tell you. Don't scroll ahead. I will know. So before we do this, while you're guessing which epic hero is going to make this list, we need to talk about how I came to the conclusion of who's the best and who's the worst, because as easy as it can be to just say this hero does the most damage on paper, that's not how it works at all. Each hero is going to fit into a specific team very well or not very well. You can pad heroes' damages, sure, and of course there are debuffs to consider, like Salazar, for example. He applies a bleed. If you're not sure what bleed does, let's just head on over to the champion Salazar really quickly. So in case you don't know, deals damage equal to 1% of the target's max HP per second, increases their physical damage taken by 10%, does not stack. So the physical damage dealers of your team is getting a benefit from Salazar, meaning their increase in damage is his damage. Technically. I wanted to cover this because you may not see the heroes that can literally do the most damage in the game on this list in the order you think it's going to be, but they're going to be the overall best. So with that being said, let's start with the top damage dealer. And yes, it is one of the heroes that I do not have. We are talking about Zilitu. Zilitu is an absolute monster. In the meta team, she caps out from anywhere between 170 to 200 million damage. Of course, this is enabled by the faction leader Twin Fiend, A1 Twin Fiend being the best option, or Pyros A5 being a close second. Although Zilitu by herself, I mean, she is just so strong. Which is why when I hit 70,000 blood, I was kind of shocked that it was even possible without Zilitu, because, I mean, we can just kind of look at the, just so you guys know what I'm talking about. Let's take a look at our guildmate with the top key in the world right now. 197 million damage from Zilitu. Now, this is where we're going to start talking about, like, the second and third place, and why there are heroes that can do well over 200 million damage, but their overall teams are much worse because they're doing that. Now, there is someone somewhere on this top list here. I believe it's this guy. All right, so this guy, what he's doing is he's using Ajax and Twin Fiend and Laurel and Hollow to boost Hex's damage, right? Hex is doing 208 million damage. That's a lot of damage. But why isn't Hex better than Zilitu? Because you're losing too much on a team-wide scale, because this isn't an individual champion game. It's a team building game, right? So if you have to sacrifice that much to get these numbers, the hero isn't that good, which is why this person's ranked 7 right now. And I think there are a few people who haven't hit, so it probably is a lot lower. But just look at the difference here. We have pretty much all best in slot awakenings, A5, A1, A5, A5, A4, which is best for Hex. And you compare it to the same, well, I guess Mechad only has it A4, Zilitu here, so he's even missing damage. But look at the blood difference. We're talking about 15,000, like 16,000 blood damage difference by not stacking all of the damage onto Hex and making it more well-rounded. So I wanted to bring up this point because this is going to tie into how I'm determining this list for the top damage dealers in the game. The next hero on this list is my personal favorite hero. That is going to be Arrogance. Arrogance is just absolutely insane. Why is he so insane? For a couple of reasons, but the Devil's Dance passive is incredibly strong. So as we can see from our talents on top, Demon Belt inflicts burning on the target. Burning deals 20% magic damage per second. Okay, great. But as we said, Devil's Dance is the main thing here. 25% chance for double strikes. 25% chance for double the damage. this scaling with a lord bonus like Toreador, if you're lucky enough to have him, you're just popping off damage left and right, and it's just incredibly, incredibly strong. Now, this is where I'm going to talk about something towards the end of the video where arrogance is probably the #1 standalone damage dealer in the game. Because while he is boosted like a lord, being a Toreador, him on his own compared to Zilitu on his own, I'm fairly positive that arrogance is going to kind of take the cake, even against anyone like a Silas, just because his base stats are incredible. He's really easy to scale, and heroes like Silas, when you remove the bond bonus from Vienna, his value drops significantly. The same thing with Hex. If you don't have another hero applying burning onto him, even if you do have the A3, his value is going to go down. Hex is also arguably harder to gear than Arrogance, 4,000 base attack compared to 5.2k base attack, which is, I mean, a pretty substantial difference here. So we can get more into that, but the second best damage dealer for the guild boss, based on how I'm grading things, is going to be Arrogance. And since Hex is here, he happens to be third. So let's talk about Hex. Hex is really cool as far as his design goes. It's very possible that Hex can take that #2 overall slot. He's definitely too far behind Zilitu, and it doesn't really require a Lord bonus. Yes, he's good with Twin Fiend. He's also good with Araka, who I'm using Hex with currently, which is I forget the name of the faction. Let's go to attributes here. Piercer, faction Lord, Araka. So he's very good with both. But one thing that people don't know is it's currently a DPS loss to have him awaken 5. It's just unfortunate the way it played out because the Card of Fate animation for drawing cards is very slow and it results in a lack of damage. Once they fix this, if you're wailing and you can get an A5, his damage is just going to go up significantly. So this should be interesting to see if they do. I mean, I'm just going to assume they're going to eventually fix this. So Hex right now, as we can see, is definitely going to be #3. We can just take a look at a bunch of these teams here. You might be thinking, wait a minute, Hex is under Valeria. How does this all work out? Hex has arguably the highest variance in the game here. So 118, 118. Let's take a look at Dark Soul, 123. Let's have a look at mine, 127. And it's, yes, gear can make a difference for sure. And the fact that I'm using the Araka bonus, 137, as we can see from right here. So there's a lot of factors that go into Hex. And if he pulls the red card, and if you know about Hex, I'll show you what I'm talking about. And also bring up the Bulls team where they totally focused on Hex damage and kind of built the whole team around this guy. I think if he was doing like 300 million damage, this team would be a worthy sacrifice to 1, 2, 3 slots. But I don't think 3 slots is worth 200 million damage here. But what I was saying before is Hex's variance is insane in this game. How insane? Let me show you. I still don't know the interface perfectly, so I'm just clicking around in circles. So you have 4 cards of Fate, right? And then you have this ultimate here, places all cards with the Joker. So baseline on this, there's only 1 card, but once you get the Awakening 1, there's a card called the Fool. Now, you will know when you pull the Fool compared to the Joker because one of them's yellow, one of them's red. If you pull the red one, you will see like 2 million damage flash on your screen with purple text, meaning it's magic damage, because that's what he does. And it's a really good feeling. However, if you don't pull the red card enough, like I said, the damage variance can be quite significant. I've seen up to 15 million, 1, 5, 3 zeros, 3 zeros damage variance just from card pulling over an entire guild boss fight. Now that's a lot. Some people may say that's like a downside to this hero. It could be, especially if you're like pushing for that next threshold for the guild boss. If you're trying to go for 50,000, 1k on Nightmare 4, or any other difficulty, if you're really close to that chest, Hex can be frustrating for sure, causing you to retry and restart your entire run multiple times until he gets that really good RNG. So that solidifies Hex as the 3rd best overall damage dealer for the guild boss. The next hero we're going to talk about is going to be Valeria, someone that I really wish I had the A3 of. Valeria is incredibly strong. She's a bit hard to pull off because of course you want her at low health all of the time, which is why I've done a few tricky things that I'll talk about in just a second here. But what makes her so hard to use? When you pop her ultimate, she cannot be healed. And if she goes to 0 health during this time, she will die once the ultimate's over. So she's useful in a lot of content, but if you can perfect this in the guild boss, which I don't think anyone has done yet, because like I said, it's very difficult, then I think she can arguably overtake Hex and possibly Arrogance. I've seen non-min-max teams doing 160 million damage with Valeria. Non-min-maxed. So I personally put her power cap at around 170 million with information that I don't have because I haven't tested enough or figured it out. Plus, I don't have A5, and that number was based on having her at A5 here. So her kit's incredibly strong, but like I said, she does take some maneuvering with your entire team here. She also gives vulnerability for physical damage, so she's gaining extra damage to your other physical damage dealers while this buff is active. Really strong when you pair it with someone like a Salazar who has a quick ultimate. You wait for this to pop up on the boss, then you ultimate with Salazar, and you kind of just keep rinse and repeating that cycle there, and you will notice not only your whole physical damage, hero team's damage go up, but Salazar specifically pops off when using Valeria on the same team here. Now, what was I talking about as far as kind of gearing around her? As you can see here, I'm using really weird stats, right? So, I mean, I shouldn't have this. I really shouldn't have this. So you want as little healing as possible. And unfortunately, Aunt Elowen isn't in range naturally, but when she uses her ultimate, the ultimate does reach Valeria in a typical guild boss team setup using Valeria. So you want to make sure she's healing as little as possible. I originally had 22,000 attack on my Elowen here. By dropping her down to 11, pretty much 12,000 attack here, my damage went up 7 million on Valeria. You heard that correct. 7 million damage on Valeria by lowering my Elowen's healing. So there's a lot of things you can do that people are going to figure out or they've already figured out, and there's so much more to figure out with a champion like Valeria. So let's go ahead and take a look at what she's doing in the top teams. 124 A5, amazing damage, 126. Like I said, Valeria is very hard to build around, 121 in the top 3. So the top 3 is fairly consistent. Me, number 4, all the way down here at 100 million. Like I said, the A3 and A5 that I'm missing is a crazy, crazy damage boost. Definitely wish I had those for sure here. Now here's another clanmate of mine with an A5, 117 mil, so we can kind of see what's going on here. Now I do want to mention one other person in my guild, which is Rune here, 125. He is someone who has definitely hit the higher thresholds of 140 to 150 million damage with this champion. Unfortunately, it didn't happen today when I was talking about it. It is what it is. Moving on to the 5th best overall damage dealer on this list. Is it going to be the Epic? No. The 5th best is going to be Mr. Silas here. And this might be surprising to a lot of people. You might be thinking, Murder, are you kidding me? Silas does insane damage. He is another hero that in the right team can do 220, 230 million damage on his own because his kit's absolutely busted. You practically don't have to stack attack on him because almost all of his damage comes during his ultimate, and he ignores 50% of the target's defense. 50. 5-0. Whichever one's straight for you guys. 50%. So the value of attack definitely goes down a lot. Crit damage, of course, gets a little bit higher with ignoring that much defense. And this guy's just a powerhouse. However, as I mentioned before, if you don't have Eona, you're definitely losing a lot of damage. And on top of that, the legendary lord that you would use for Silas is not considered, or not pretty much used in the meta guild boss team. Quick example, Twin Fiend and Toreador is the meta. You'll see it on the top, on the top, on the top. I'm the first one using Araka here, and then number 6 uses Araka as well, 7 Araka. So there's a clear power gap between using Twin Fiend and using Araka. No matter how much copium I give myself, it's going to be very hard to close that gap with these Twin Fiend users. Maybe I'll figure something out down the line, but as of right now, this is what's holding Silas back the most here. He's doing 130 million damage for me while using Araka. The highest I've seen him on my team is about 141 million damage. But if you want to do a strat similar to what Bailey and the Bull Guild is doing, you can swap Hex's role for Silas's role here. Of course, you wouldn't take Ajax because magic damage doesn't matter to him. And you can I should find someone because I know there's someone that does a similar strategy with Silas. All right, so the first good example is this player called Lazy Fish here, who's doing the Hex trick, but with Silas here, 145 million damage. May sound like a small amount, but using Hollow, using Laurel, with someone like a Silas, the damage, like I said, properly geared, A5, kind of like they have him. I'm assuming his gear is just a bit low on him. You can get well over 200 million damage, but again, it's the opportunity cost of the entire team that gets impacted greatly by, I don't want to say wasting, but kind of wasting 2 heroes just to bump Silas's damage up that much. So that is why I have him on the list as number 5. Now for number 6, it's a hero we've already talked about, and that is going to be Mr. Salazar. Salazar is so powerful because he enables a very strong, probably the second or third strongest guild boss artifact in the entire game, being Scarlet Hunt. Once it's max level, it deals 30% extra damage to the targets. The main issue with Salazar is he's very awaken dependent for bleed consistency. Once you get all the way up to the A5, his damage pops. A3 is the kind of aim and goal where you want him for the best bleed duration you could possibly get. So I mentioned his bleed damage. It's going to boost his damage for sure. He tops out at about 105 to 115 million damage with, like, if you have insane gear and an A5. But usually he's used, and his ultimate is used in the guild boss to improve your team's damage. The best example for this is going to be you're going to use his ult on the shield, and you don't get any damage when you hit the shield. If you ever test this out and you hit the shield, none of the damage you do to it actually counts for your blood score. You only get it when you pop the shield. But by sacrificing Salazar, he does a lot of damage with his ultimate. Using that, it puts the dragon into the stunned and down state after a shield, where it takes increased damage, where you can use more of your other heroes' more powerful ultimates to really pump in massive damage. But why he is so strong is not only is his overall damage high for this hero specifically, he increases the physical damage we take, as we went over bleed earlier, but once you have high enough bleed up time, you don't need 100% crit rate on this guy. You don't, which really unlocks a lot. He has insane base attack. I mean, let's just look at this. 6,800 base attack compared to 4,000, 4,100, 4,000, 5,200, 5,000, 6,400. Not even Valeria can compete with this guy. So is he the highest in the game? I mean, I don't have every hero, so I don't know this, but he may have the highest base attack in the game. I definitely need someone to fact check me on that for sure. If you know, leave me a comment because I am definitely curious. But that is why Salazar is going to be on this list as number 6. Now, number 7 is probably going to surprise a lot of people. Still not the epic, though. Number 7 is going to be Calypso. Calypso is someone that I'm pretty sure I fed a copy of early because I was told Calypso wasn't that good. However, Calypso is actually a very strong damage dealer. The main issue with Calypso is her power spike only happens at Awaken 5. There's a case to make to put her closer to Silas, but the fact that she needs A5 to stand a chance is just not good enough. Why does she need A5? If we look at her skills here, summons a seal stone that deals damage equal to 30% attack to the target every time Calypso attacks. Fine. These don't do a ton of damage, but it adds up for sure. The thing is, up to 4 can exist at the same time. When you have the Awaken 5, up to 5 can exist at the same time. Why is this so strong? Because 5 is the cap for soulbound arcana, and Infernal Roar is the inferior set on Calypso, unfortunately, no matter how you look at it. It's just the inferior set. Soulbound Arcana, even only getting 4 stacks, is the best. So currently the highest Calypso damage I've seen from an A5 is like 98 million damage with way worse gear than I have. So I'm confident that could go well above 100 million damage with high quality gear. Again, I don't have an A5, so I cannot give you exact numbers, but she pumps because she gets her stacks of the ultimate insanely fast. I mean insanely fast. If you watch her, you'll notice right away. And the damage is extremely impressive, and of course, since I'm using the Araka bonus, she gets the lowest effect from Araka, because if you look at how I position all my heroes, and if you look at the Araka bonus for her lord, every one tile away increases the damage by 5%. I believe Calypso is only getting 15% extra damage, whereas Hex and Silas are getting 25 and 30%. You might be thinking, what's 10%, 15% damage? A lot over the duration of a guild boss fight. So that's my pick for sure as far as number 7. And number 8, last but not least, is going to be our epic. Have you figured out who it is yet? I cannot wait to see the comments as to who you guys guessed. Number 8 is going to be another hero that I don't have. You guessed it, Deimos. Deimos is such a cool looking hero. I wish I had him. I wouldn't use him, but I mean, I probably would use him just to see what his max potential truly is. I don't think anyone that's endgame is currently using this guy. I could be wrong. I really could be wrong, and I'm curious. I did look through this earlier and didn't see anyone in the top using Deimos, but based on the data I've collected over the past 2 weeks of looking at the lower end people who have been using Deimos, I calculated his top end damage to be 90 to 100 million damage with like endgame gear, which is very, very high for sure here. This is someone, okay, 72 million damage, that's impressive. I'm actually really lucky I just found that. To go look at the gear here. Yeah, so this gear is a little bit lacking for sure. Not even max skilled, or no, it is max skilled. It just says level 3. I don't know why it's not a 5 level like most of the others, but it is what it is. So yeah, we're missing some damage here. Of course, this isn't the best gear. Once you start getting yellow rolls on your gear and minimum purple everywhere and as many 4/4, kind of like this necklace, 4 good substats with a good main stat, and of course a maxed artifact. All this could be a placeholder just to hide what he's actually using. I don't really know, but Deimos is extremely strong. Love his kit, love the way the hero looks. And despite having no immediate use for him, I would love to just get this hero. Now, with that being said, I do have to mention that he's probably going to be rather hard to gear in the complete endgame, because as we can see from the talent, basic attacks deal additional damage equal to 2% of the hero's max HP. Now, obviously, as I've said many times, Moonton, please give me this hero next time I summon. I don't have him, but I would say it would be healthy to give him as much max HP as you can on any random pieces of gear that you don't have a 4/4 set of, just to see how high we can get that basic attack scaling for him, just to see if that is worth it. And of course, he has incredible scaling, as we can see, tearing his passive, increasing his damage by 10% for 10 seconds, of course, can be increased by scaling him up to 6 times, 60% damage. Hello, that's a ton of damage here. And there's just many other things that are very good on this hero. So that's going to be the top 8. I doubt anyone here was really surprised at any hero in this top 8. The question is, who were you surprised as far as how I ordered these heroes? Now, it's possible in the future I do a list of the best standalone heroes. I really don't want to do this because I think it's going to give people the wrong idea, but there is a case to be made where, murder, what if I don't have the Twin Fiend Lord, the Araka Lord, the Toreador Lord? What if I have just the Wrath Login, Lunaria from the Shard Fragment Fusion event, whatever we want to call it, and how do I know who the best are from that? It's a very good point for sure, and it's going to apply to many players. However, this list is still going to be the closest in relation to what you are looking for, even if you're not getting the legendary lord bonuses I did mention. Because while a lot of these heroes do kind of pop, if you take all of the legendary lords out of all of these heroes, some move up significantly, like arrogance. He doesn't really need Toreador to do insane damage. He does a lot with Toreador, but I mean, I can just give you a quick example. You look at one of my guildmates again, and I'll keep using my guild as examples, but they have been doing a fantastic job. If you look at Haas's team here, he's doing 86 million damage with arrogance, and he has an A5 Wrath, so he's not getting the Toreador bonus. So that's 86 mil without a legendary bonus, and he's awakening 0. Now you compare that to Zilitu, that's awakening 2 with an A5 Pyros. That Pyros is worse than Twin Fiend, of course, but the difference between Pyros and Twin Fiend is much smaller than Wrath and Toreador. So you can kind of see the damage difference here at 115 compared to 86. If you make Zilitu A0, of course his damage is going to shrink again as well. So maybe in the future I can make that standalone list, even though it's going to be a bit tricky to get the numbers for. Of course, I can do my best. That's going to conclude this video on the guild boss. Hopefully you have at least one of these amazing heroes. If not, these are the heroes to keep your eye on for sure while you're progressing through the game. If you enjoyed this content, smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification button, and I will see you all in my next upload.